Ladon Paige has been a resident of West Ashley since 2007, and she's been fighting for issues such as the billboard on Bees Ferry Road. Now, she wants to be the next Charleston County Council member to represent District 6. I speak exclusively with her for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on social media. Ladon Paige, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups via Zoom from the Washington Square Park here in downtown Charleston.
Hey, Quintin, this is like the third time we've tried it.
Yes. And that's why I like face-to-face interviews versus Zoom, but here we are.
I get it.
Yes, ma'am.
No worries.
Oh, thank you greatly. Well, I understand that you have been a resident of West Ashley's District 6, which covers Charleston County Council since 2007, I believe.
2007 is correct. Yeah, I moved here in the summer of 2007.
What is the biggest difference about Charleston from 2007 to right now?
I think there is definitely more traffic, more congestion, certainly some more issues with flooding. I know that we had that really bad, 100-year, 1,000-year flood, whatever they decided to call that. And that was probably the first experience that I had with really severe flooding in Charleston. And then it seems like every year after that, we had, a hurricane or, some other flooding events. But I think that really traffic, infrastructure, flooding, those are the big issues. And I think everybody's kind of aware of that that's running for council right now, too. So.
And as a matter of fact, you are running for council as the candidate for District 6. Let me ask you this, because you said this, quote, I am running for county council because I believe there's a need for people to serve the local communities within which they live. I want to represent the residents and listen to their concerns. What are the other concerns that concern you about District 6?
The concerns I have for District 6 are obviously, what's going to happen in the future with more development? Is that going to affect our livability, our quality of life? The flooding, is that going to get worse if we don't implement, solutions like stormwater management? If we don't start to kind of figure out, is there a better way to build that alleviates or mitigates some of the flooding? I think the county's done some really excellent research with the Dutch dialogues and then also the resilience element. I think that we need to start implementing those policies or recommendations rather. But and I think that we have some road and infrastructure projects that are in the works and in the making too, like the Glen McConnell widening of that, and then the main road corridor and the flyover that's going to extend over to Johns Island too.
You talk about quality life. What exactly is that right now in District 6?
I think that can be different for everybody, to be honest with you. I mean, so it's all about our opinion and where we come from and what we're looking for. But, I think quality of life is really, what overall makes your life better. And, if there's something that we can do for each individual or the residents, whether it be making sure we have access to the utilities and to the, the trash and the recycling, anything that we have access to, we all are affected by those things. And so, I think that flooding affects everybody. It doesn't pick and choose who it wants to go to or what it wants to do. But traffic is something that everybody has to sit in every day, day in and day out. And, are there alternatives or things that we can do to make these, situations better? I think there are. And I think that we need to explore those.
What are your alternatives for traffic and flooding?
Well, I mean, I think that you have to have a plan in place. I mean, before you build, it's definitely a backwards way of thinking to build and then figure out what you're going to do with everybody. So if we don't have, those infrastructure projects such as, transportation that's readily available or alternative means of transportation, rather, I think that we can extend that out further to this district, for us to, are people going to use it even? Are we going to have rapid transportation and people to use that? I think is one thing that we have to consider too.
And you talked earlier about the stormwater management. What type of plan do you have?
That is something that would warrant further investigation on my part, to be honest. But I think that there are management issues and, clearing of the ditches. Those are things that need to be done more routinely and things that I hear people complain about or, voice their concerns about rather. So, that's one of the things that should be very important and a priority too.
And I know earlier you talked about traffic. You said this about roads, quote, roads can be safer with the use of more patrols and traffic cameras to help encourage traffic signal awareness. How many traffic cameras are you asking for your district?
I don't know the answer to how many would be needed. I think that that really would probably take some studies, maybe even involving the DOT. I'm not real sure, how that process gets started, but I think that there are some really concerning intersections. Main Road is one of those at 17. Perhaps the redesign of that with the flyover is going to help with some of the safety issues there. But Bees Ferry is it's a fast road. People drive faster than they should on this road. And then of course the one at Glen McConnell and Magwood is a really bad intersection. That's not quite in District 6, but that is something that could warrant some exploration to see, is there a way that we can help people be aware, and traffic cameras too, I think, make people aware that we're doing things we shouldn't. I mean, we shouldn't just be purposely running red lights and speeding, and either that or more patrols to kind of help enforce the regulations that are there. So
Patrols, how much funding would you put towards that?
I don't know the answer to that either, but I think it's a very important thing. I don't know currently what's already allocated for the patrols, and I think that it's important for us to put emphasis on our public works and our first responders and the policemen. I think that we need to make sure that they're funded adequately to help the communities that we're in now. So,
And you talk about public safety. How is that in Lincolnville, for instance?
how is public safety in Lincolnville? I don't know. That is one thing that I want to hear from residents. I want to know what their concerns are. I think I've talked to you previously just in chatting that Lincolnville, Ladson, and that area, it's a very diverse district, and so I do believe that maybe some of the things that we're experiencing in West Ashley may not be the same important things that those residents are faced with, and I want to know what those concerns are. I just don't kind of venture out that much. I stay mostly in this area, but it is something that I need to know what their concerns are, and I would want those people to reach out to me.
Now, when it comes to Lincolnville, what other concerns are you hearing right now?
I'm not hearing many, to be honest. I've tried to reach out through some different avenues, but I'm not hearing what they are, but I want to know what they are.
Okay. And let me get back. I know you said earlier, obviously, the Glen McConnell Magwood area is not really in District 6, but would a flyover be crucial for that area?
I don't know that a flyover is the answer to Glen McConnell. They've already done some studies and kind of have in place what they're going to do. I certainly think that perhaps even just changing the direction of the on-ramps to 526 coming from Glen McConnell would help, because right now, if you're coming from Bees Ferry, that's a turn lane, and that seems like something that they should redesign to make the flow of traffic consistent going one way so that you're not having to stop at a red light and turn left. But I don't know that a flyover is the answer to Glen McConnell, but I
What
think
should be that answer?
I think what they have in place is excellent. I don't know if you've looked at the proposal, but I did go to the meeting for the Glen McConnell workshop, and it seems like what they have is a great plan. So I'm not an engineer, but I did listen to their studies, and it seems like it's something that's going to help. So.
And let me turn to the 526 extension. You said this quote, 526 has been a source of contention since I moved to Charleston in 2007. The taxpayers did not agree to use sales tax increase funds for this project. But I think it's fair to reevaluate this issue in upcoming election year. What in your mind did the taxpayers agree to? And what else in your mind did the taxpayers did not agree to?
So, from my understanding of that, the referendum was, I believe, 2016 for the sales tax, the half cent sales tax. And those funds were supposed to generate over, I believe, 25 years, $2.1 billion for infrastructure projects, for flooding, for pedestrian. There's a certain percentage allocated to those. And so the funds that were listed for transportation and for road projects did not include 526. There were other projects such as the Glen McConnell and Main Road Corridor, and then there's some other ones too. So I think Dorchester is one of those as well, Dorchester Road. Right. But, those funds were, I believe, what was made transparent to the taxpayers when they decided to vote on that referendum. So if 526 wasn't put on there, I'm not sure it's fair to the taxpayers to now take funds from that to pay for 526. But does it mean that they can't do something in the future? That doesn't mean they can't, propose another referendum. But then, I also don't know that 526 is the answer or the solution to solving traffic to Johns Island.
What is it?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know the answer to that, but there certainly are those other projects in place. So perhaps those are projects that will help alleviate traffic at this point too. We need to kind of see what's going to happen with that. I know the Coastal Conservation League has worked on maybe an alternative called A New Way to Work, I believe is what it's called. So that's something that people could explore and look at and educate themselves on too. But I think that it's fair to let's start the projects that we know, will help, and then move forward from there. See if 526 is even going to be necessary to extend to Johns Island at that point. Now, 526 does need its own repairs and improvements, and I think that those funds are allocated for that appropriately. So the west and east part of
And what other projects should the county should be working on right now?
There's probably a lot of them, and I honestly don't know what all of those are. I think that they're working on, I mentioned briefly the resilience element. I think that's
Right.
one of the things that they were writing into the master plan to kind of help with building codes and, flooding and looking at and evaluating the Dutch dialogue recommendations. And so they are working on those projects right now. I know they just finished the sale of the Navy Hospital.
Right.
That was something that a lot of people, I believe, were it's taxpayer funds and it costs us a lot of money. So I think that we need to be careful, how we spend our funds and in the future. But obviously, that's something that's already happened and we can't go back. But we can
Well,
learn from
when you talk about the old Naval Hospital, what services should Charleston County put in that particular hospital right now?
Well, I don't think that they're going to do anything with it because it was sold to another developer. So I don't think Charleston County is now using that for anything, from what I understand. Is that correct?
Well, from my understanding, William Cogswell, we just talked to him about it. They're still developing the whole Naval Hospital situation with Charleston County, so we'll see what happens with that. But as far
Yeah.
as we know, most of them want some services in that building.
I know that they were talking at one point about reserving 3 floors for Charleston buildings or county buildings or offices. I thought that was scrapped with the current sale of it. I don't know, but that's kind of what I understood. But I could be wrong. So
Let me get back to 526 because obviously you talk about things that could be reevaluated. What should be reevaluated when it comes to extension of 526 if you're elected in 2021?
I mean, I think we need to finish some of the other road projects that are, going to take place. I don't know how feasible it is to do 5 different road projects at one time. I mean, certainly that's going to impact traffic flow if you're constructing roads. So again, I don't know that we need to jump into finishing 526 when we should finish the roads that we know those projects have, already been approved. So
What in your mind, Ladon, is responsible development?
I think that we have to take a lot into consideration when we develop, just developing kind of here and there. We do want to kind of reduce urban sprawl. I think, that's true. But, developing more apartments, if those are going to come with more traffic without a solution for how those residents need to get somewhere, apartments maybe should be more, centralized to kind of closer to downtown areas. Further out in West Ashley, there is no public transportation alternative to get people where they need to go. I know that CARTA does come out to the Walmart, and that's excellent. And there's actually a new development going in right by the Walmart, so that might be something that can be utilized. Maybe CARTA will be utilized more, but from what I understand, what I've seen is most people in West Ashley drive everywhere they go, and so the more development, there's going to be more traffic, and we need a solution for that. I don't know what that is, but there needs to be something in place before we start just developing more and more. And I think that we need to also be very aware of our wetlands. I'm not for clearing wetlands because I think they're natural reservoirs of water, and we're seeing what's taking place. I mean, that's why we're experiencing so much flooding, I believe. So.
In the past 2 years, how many new apartments and homes have been developed in District 6?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I drive by them. I know there's definitely some off of Bees Ferry. There's the one in the Makes by the high school. There's one by Glen McConnell at Magwood, I
Right.
think. So all of these are pretty significant developments. There's the one that I mentioned that's by Walmart's.
Right.
And apartments are great because some people don't want the responsibility of home ownership, and it might be more affordable. But I can tell you though, a lot of these apartments are not necessarily affordable. They're pretty expensive. So.
What then is Is it affordable housing? Is it attainable housing? Or is it workforce housing in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's workforce or affordable. I'm not real sure if this is just for transient people coming and going, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty fairly expensive, and I don't know what incentives are currently offered to developers to allot for certain units being affordable. I don't know quite how all that works, but I certainly am wanting to understand that more.
But then, what incentives do you have in your mind?
Again, I don't do this, so I'm not sure. I'm not really involved in that aspect of it. But I think that we need to make sure that there's something affordable for people. But I think the affordability of housing also needs to take into consideration, where do the people work? If you put them so far out away from where they work, that's probably canceling out the idea of it being affordable where they live. I mean, they need to be able to work close to where they live if it's a difficult thing for them, or if they don't have adequate transportation. So,
What are the three biggest businesses in District 6?
the three biggest businesses in District 6, so mostly the West Ashley side. I don't know that we have, most of that is residential. So, we might have some grocery stores and some retail development, but District 6 going up toward Ladson and Lincolnville, I think that Lincolnville is more kind of an industrial type going up that way. I don't know, but the businesses are probably mostly more residential and geared toward residential communities. So.
Let me turn to the FEMA homes. In the West Ashley portion of District 6, a large portion of the homes run along the Church Creek Basin, and it has obviously been built, and some people feel like it should not have been built. FEMA is currently buying out homes like the ones in Bridgepoint and Shadow Moss because they have filed claims for flood damage upwards of 5 or 6 times. How will these FEMA projects, Ladon, impact residents in that area in the next 10 years, per se?
I mean, I think that flooding can certainly continue to be an issue in some of those areas. And I know that they've purchased a few homes. I don't know all of the details about that, but if we're still continuing to experience that flooding and FEMA is putting those funds, we obviously don't need to redevelop in those areas. I mean, we kind of know that that's going to be a flood prone area. So I don't know if that can be reutilized for green space to help mitigate future flooding. But FEMA definitely can't also continue to put in funds to repair things 5 and 6 times. And so we also need to carefully look at and study, are there going to be future areas that will experience that, and try to avoid development in those areas.
How many of those FEMA homes have been built that should not have been built in your mind?
I don't guess I understand that they were building the homes. I think those homes were just being purchased by FEMA. Is that correct? After they had multiple claims, they bought the homes. They weren't rebuilding them. I thought they just tore them down.
Well, let me ask you this. What planning practices, when it comes to the FEMA homes, would you approve of?
I don't, I guess it's a fair question. I just not one, again, I have an answer to. So, yeah.
Well, let me fast forward. If you were to be elected Charleston County Council member for District 6, what exactly would you do on day one?
I'd probably be pretty excited, first of all, and I've met with most of the council members already and have dealt with them through a project with a billboard that I was working on. But I think kind of there'll be some newbies too. I think there's 4 positions, I believe, that are up for reelection. So it will be a different dynamic, but I think it's good to get to know your peers and then work with them and try to start jumping in and working to resolve some issues that residents have. And my big thing is that I want people to participate in the local government. I think that it's important for us to have a voice and to express that. And, we have the great right to do that, and we should utilize it for sure. So,
how different will your voice be on the situation with the billboard?
My voice on that is probably not likely to change. The residents of West Ashley, I've been kind of an advocate for them and lobbying to prevent that. And although that doesn't seem like a very significant issue at the time with everything else going on, it's something that I had committed to fight for the residents for that. And, we definitely, most of us are of the mindset that we don't feel that a billboard on Beast Ferry is an appropriate place just because of, I think, safety issues is one of the big things, but also the overall character of the community just doesn't fit it. So,
I know you're all about, being frugal. When you look at Charleston County Council's budget, what would you take out and what would you pin in for the residents?
Honestly, I have been reviewing the budget. I haven't gotten through all, I think, 200 pages of it. So I don't know. I do anticipate that there will be some budget cuts just because of everything that's taken place with COVID. So I don't know what will need to be taken out of that. I was recently asked about would I support funding for the Animal Society, and obviously that's my livelihood. So I don't plan on taking anything out on support on that, but I'm sure there are other things that we need to be careful about. And, like you said, be frugal. I think that we have a great responsibility to take care of the taxpayers' funds, and, we need to be a good steward of those. So,
Ladon, Paige, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
thank you, Quintin, for having me a third
You're
time.
welcome.
Yeah.